Hello everyone and welcome back to Crypto Atlas. In today's video, I will be discussing Bitcoin, Ethereum, Orchid, as well as we're going to be taking a look at Polkadot, because Polkadot had a pretty nice daily gain and I want to see what is exactly going on there on the charts. So I actually just recorded like 15 minutes of video when I realized that my audio wasn't working, and so I'm actually just going to focus on what I feel is the most relevant articles right now for you guys, and then we're going to dive into the charts. So it's going to be shorter than what the other video was going to be, but also a little bit more to the point. If you guys are new to the channel, don't forget to hit subscribe for more cryptocurrency news and technical analysis, and also click that bell icon so you can actually get notified of these videos. Help us out by hitting that like button. It only takes a quarter of a second, and we're trying to get to 100 likes on every video that we do. That being said, let's go ahead and get into the news. On December 8th, someone made a simultaneous transfer of 28.15 Bitcoins worth more than $500,000 at the time to 22 different virtual wallets, most of them belonging to prominent right-wing organizations and personalities. According to one source familiar with the matter, the suspicious December 8th transaction, along with a number of other pieces of intelligence, has prompted law enforcement and intelligence agencies in recent days to actively investigate the sources of funding for the individuals who participated in the Capitol insurrection, as well as their networks. The government is hoping to prevent future attacks, but also to uncover potential foreign involvement in or support of right-wing activities, the source said. So looking at it from a negative perspective, in line with that, there's someone, her name is Christine Lagarde. She downplays the idea of Bitcoin, which I'm going to highlight here. Bitcoin surges back above $40,000, so we had another really good day with that, as bulls ignore her crypto warnings. Bitcoin surged as much as 7.5% on Thursday to $40,094.81. The red-hot cryptocurrency has seen immense volatility in recent days, with thousands of dollars per coin added and wiped out across short periods. Thursday's surge comes after European Central Bank boss Christine Lagarde called for more regulation the prior day. Morgan Stanley analyst says a Bitcoin focus is unsurprising given the low bond yields. So this girl, she said, Bitcoin is not a currency, as many of its proponents argue, but a highly speculative asset which has conducted some funny business, which we just talked about an instance of them doing with these radical extremist groups, right? People are using the word radical left and right literally all the time now. Anyways, so the reality is that I think there's certain things like the KYC system, which is good as far as regulation goes. KYC is know your customer. You can identify through the exchanges who actually had purchased the cryptocurrencies. And then if there is an instance that something is able to be identified of an illegal transaction, it's like, well, who just bought these drugs? Who just bought these weapons? You know, like something isn't quite right here and this is a big threat and we need to be able to handle it and identify who these criminals are. Oh, well, because of the KYC system, there's something that you can track with that. In that sense, personally, just my own opinion, I think it's good. Having too many regulations is bad, as it's a decentralized cryptocurrency and there has to be that element of where like it's still not in full control over from one entity, because then they can just manipulate it like the Federal Reserve does and print out as much as they want, and we all see how well the inflation's going with that. In fact, with that inflation system, guess what? We are seeing already prices beginning to rise. A lot of standard products, I believe rice was one of the examples I saw, tomatoes, I think copper is, and its price is going up. So we're already seeing the ramifications. And when they printed out all this money and they started distributing it last year, where do you think it went first? It went to specific groups. And over time, that money starts to circulate. So it's a lagging indicator. This year, we're going to see a lot more of those ramifications as it starts to flow more into the system. You go into the grocery store, things are going to end up costing more. They're already starting to cost more. I went up to get a bag of chips. It was the Flamin' Hot Cheetos puff corn, and the bag used to say only $2. Well, now it says only $2.25, something like that. So very interesting how things transition. But, you know, if you're going to say that there's funny business going on with Bitcoin and that's why you don't want people to use it, then you could easily just say the same thing with traditional fiscal dollars. Like, how many people you think are using regular dollars printed to go and do things that are illegal? So you're going to take away all printed money because some people use it for illegal things? Not everyone uses Bitcoin for illegal things. Not everyone uses it to just hold on to. A perfect example is look at what's going on over in like South Africa. These different places where they don't have a lot of banks, but a lot of people actually have smartphones and they have the ability to access the internet, and using a form of digital currency like Bitcoin, which is also a store of value and accruing itself a higher valued price, rewarding you for actually holding on to a longer term, right? For those people that are looking to do business, they can more easily transmit their funds from one to another in a country like that than to say trying to go do a traditional banking system where they don't have banks over there, and also the value is going down. And anyways, so let's go ahead and go into actually no, sorry, one more thing. So looking at the options contracts, what's going on right now, a lot of people are speculating there's a 20% chance. I don't have the article in front of me, but I do remember this number because I just talked about it a second ago. There's a 20% chance of Bitcoin getting above $50,000 before the end of January 29th for the expiry contracts. And then if it hits $53,000, that would have hit the market projection based on another company that was suggesting that for the year, the end of the year of 2021. And that would be $1 trillion for the Bitcoin market capitalization by itself, not including all the other cryptocurrencies. All the other cryptocurrencies, we've already seen it hit $1 trillion. But if we're talking about just Bitcoin by itself, the top dog, the big honcho, the big kahuna, the Don, I don't I can go on. Potentially I'm getting close to running out of different things. The leader, the presidente. Okay, now I think I'm basically out. Anyways, so you know, we're very close, and psychologically I think if we hit one level that you're much closer in trying to hit another level. One example I could give is like working out. I got a little tracker. I've been doing cardio again. I got my goal for my steps, and it told me, hey, you're close to getting 3 miles on top of that. So what did I do? I just went ahead and kept walking so I could hit the 3-mile goal. And progressively, I've been moving that goalpost more and more as the days have gone by. And so to think that that's a psychological element that comes into play with stuff like this too, it is one element. It's not the only element. New regulations is an element. How much inflow and outflow is going into the exchanges. If people are trying to manipulate systems, there's downtrends that are going on with the exchanges. They can't handle the amount of transactions going on. Things like that. Excuse me, guys. So let's go ahead and dive into the charts here. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Orchid, and Polkadot. Those are the ones we're looking at. I put up this little trend pattern here before, and what this did was I was highlighting where we actually had a first little kind of major push up take place. I believe it was at this point. It looks like that might be it. 1, 2, and a little bit of a pullback down kind of. Yeah. So anyways, if this was to have a further continuation on with yesterday's candle, it essentially did create that line. Almost directly in tandem, and I set up that position with all this formation in yesterday's video before the candle was anywhere close to being closed. In fact, the candle had just basically started. And looking at this trend pattern, if it was to kind of work its way up at the same pace, well, then we could be seeing $100,000 right around in April, pushing into May, right? Just like right around the end of April. But that's if it continued at this pace, and that's with some of these major pullbacks taking place as well. So the question is something like that likely to happen? When could we see $75,000, $75,000 based on this kind of a pattern? Formation would be right around the beginning part of March. But if you want my opinion, in the first 3 to 6 months, PayPal is supposed to be rolling out their adoption so that you can purchase Bitcoin worldwide, not just through the United States. That's going to open the floodgates even more for potential buyers. And that's not including if some other major institutions decide that they want to start getting in on Bitcoin as well. You could have other big proponents. We're talking about the fact that one Bitcoin is approximately $40,000 right now. Someone wants to drop $1 million, that's still a good amount of Bitcoin being taken off the table. Looking at the charts, as it is, we got to get above $40,000. $40,000 is a key level of resistance. The fact that we had passed above this briefly yesterday, in fact, yesterday's position had at one point, let's try and get this zoomed in a little bit more here, went all the way up to $40,130. I know it's really hard to see that line, but it's right around $40,130. $42,000 is the major level of resistance overall. So $40,000, we break that, then we establish ourselves going back, trying to test the waters in 42K range, and then over that range would actually be, according to this level of resistance, I would be looking at $46,000, just under that, $45,900 with the potential tap of that and a pull back down. There's lots of room for movement between these positions, so do keep that in mind. The RSI itself is suggesting that we're on the verge of being overbought. There was a bit of sell-off that took off those last several days with some recovery, very strong bounce back, so very big dump and then huge recovery coming right back. Boom, man. People are looking at 30K as a bottom level of support. And as you guys can see, that's been a pretty good formation right down here. That's where we had that bounce off of with that huge red candle. It recovered all the way back over 50%. Almost looks like 2/3 or so of its recovery going back into that position. And then we got another level of support at $32,000, another level at $33,300. Right now for the 21 EMA, that's at $33,880, and things are holding up pretty good. So the level of the volume, as you guys can see, has actually been steadily going down ever since that massive sell-off. That was a huge amount of volume that took place, but remember, it did recover pretty well. It still ended in the red pretty bad, but it could have been way, way worse for a closure on that day. We saw a follow-up the next day, so a lot of that selling pressure has been pulled off. I'm a little bit concerned about how fast we recovered right back, but at the same time, too, you got to look at the fact that we're in a bull market, right? And there's a shortage supply that is occurring. So when you get a supply shock like that, what happens? The price goes up more and more and more. More people want it. There's not enough to go around. So there's a lot of euphoria behind something like this. And seeing that we're close to $40,000 again, people can easily think that, well, we hit $42,000. Sure, $40,000 might bounce, but if we pass above 40K, then you're looking about another $2,000 potential gain just from that alone. And then if it passes 42K, you don't know what to compare it to, except the only other thing would be to assume 43K, 44K, 45K, and then obviously pushing towards 50K. And also on today's position, I would be looking at another lower trend support at $36,530. So some nice potential gain movements. Would be absolutely amazing to see it push all the way up here to $46,000. Whew. Oh man, you're looking at about a $6,050 or 6,000 wait, what are we at, 4,000 right now almost, right? And I just said 46,000. Yeah, so about a $6,000 price range or so. Pretty close to that. My brain is starting to shut off just a little bit. Let's keep focusing on the key elements right now. I hope you guys are having a good time. And again, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit subscribe and hit the thumbs up like button. Okay, let's go look at Ethereum. So looking at Ethereum, it had a little bit of a pullback formation that took place down here, but then the recovery has also shown its signs. Now it's trying to test the waters once again for $1,283. Then we have that major level point right here, which is at $1,359. And then of course the all-time high of $1,420. We are now going into a Friday candle position. Wall Street is going to be hitting the floor pretty hard. The question is, can we finish off a Friday breaking Ethereum into a new all-time high? That's a good question, and I don't know if it's for sure going to be able to happen today. We've had moments of huge candles take place. This is looking like it needs to have another large volume occur pretty soon here, as the last 3 days have been substantially smaller in comparison to some of the previous periods we saw with this big uprise. So I think there's a very good chance within either the next 24 hours to the next 3 days, as long as this stays green in these positions, that we could very well see it break above its previous all-time high. I really doubt that it's going to go just underneath it and just kind of go sideways for a bit, unless there's a lot of players that are setting things up to kind of cause it to launch and go further on, you know what I'm saying? So if it decides it wants to go further down, we could see a level of support right here at $1,137, the 21 EMA at $1,024. Another level down below that is at $909, and then a further level down below that is at $835. Next token we're going to go ahead and look up is Orchid. Looking at Orchid, how are you doing today, Orchid? Well, yesterday you formed essentially a Darth Maul pattern. You did close out in the green with that, but a very tall wick on the top and on the bottom. It is 2 days of closure back again above the 21 EMA, and I feel that this still substantiates the idea that we have the possibility for further climb action, as we had finally broken above back on January 5th into a bull market trend and actually going back into this consolidated space. As it is right now, we're still in the lower quadrant of this consolidated space that has occurred previously. So we're kind of like in between the two, right? We're in the upper half quadrant of that previous consolidated space, but at the same time, we're also in the lower end, the very bottom end of this consolidated space there. Realistically, let's get above 28 cents or 0.2759 to feel more substantiated into this higher position. I'd be really looking at that range. But the fact that we've broken above, we only had 2 days of closure that were in the red below the 21 EMA. Looking at Orchid's history, it's like 3 days shows more of a consistency with the 21 EMA. Like, it's very definitive with this stuff ever since the $1 drop. Most of the time it's been bearish in its patterns though, so this is trying to show some sign of recovery and some gain action. So we do have signs suggesting that this could potentially pull up higher. I'm a little bit concerned that it is still so close to the 21 EMA. It only has to go down to 26 cents, which is technically where it's at, but 0.2608 for that to be considered a crossover once again down into the underneath the 21 EMA. So we're not out of the woods yet. And then we got 24 cents or 0.2412. That is also another key metric position. Further level down below that is at 21 cents or 0.2093. You know, we're talking very minor semantics here. So I would say 21 cents. Ultimately, let's get above 30 cents and push all the way even further beyond to 33 cents. That would be absolutely amazing. And then going back into the Fibonacci levels here, we have the 0.5 at 0.3378 cents. And then the 0.618 is all the way up at 37 cents. And then past that, we're actually looking pretty darn good, as there's not a whole bunch of reference points going all the way back up to that previous dollar range. But just looking at it on a daily perspective like this, you can see that there is a substantial continuous drop action. Try to recover and then further drop. Try to recover, further drop. And so it's had a lot of selling moments for sure, and the opportunity for growth is definitely there. If we look at this on the weekly position, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks of continuous red. Ouch, that's really bad. 1 green, and then alternating patterns back and forth. 2 green, 2 red, green, red, red, green, red. So it's having a very difficult time trying to get some consistency on these greens. We haven't seen 3 weeks consistently of greens for Orchid, well, since technically back in April of last year. So 2 weeks consistently, yes, we've had some moments, but 3, and so right now on the weekly candle, we're technically showing in the red. That's not great news, guys, but you know, eventually the pattern starts to shift a little bit. Right now it is recovering quite considerably from where that bottom was, and you can also look at it from the weekly perspective. Massive pump, essentially all dump, but the recovery back. So hopefully that the dump situation is done. If it decides it wants to go back down, it looks like around 22 cents is where that bottom level is for several of these key metrics. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the last one, which is DOT, aka Polkadot, and that is DOT, right? Yeah, that is. And where is it with Coinbase? Okay, I don't know where it is. We're gonna go ahead and use Kraken for this case. You have 2 substantial days of green bounced off of the 21 EMA. Told you it's a really nice indicator, guys. Those last 2 days, we've seen a substantial price increase. In fact, in that movement, we've seen it go all the way down from a baseline of the candle at approximately $8.21 to a high position of $14.45. We're still holding above $14 as of the moment. There is some red signs. Those 2 daily candles were also pretty high on the volume. It seems like we have these sporadic moments. High volatility, then nothing. And then high volatility, and then essentially nothing going on here. So this next day could end up being considerably lower. Seeing high levels of volume like this, we don't actually really see that. In fact, we trace this all the way back in its history. The last time we saw that was back around August of last year. So yeah, we have some higher candles overall in these positions and mostly showing signs of some growth. However, you know, you got pump and dump situations that are occurring with this stuff. Where it's currently at right now, it actually still has quite a ways to go, up to $50 according to this, with Kraken, of it hitting its previous high, which essentially it looks like it started out in that position then started dropping. I like Polkadot. I think it's got a lot of good use cases, so I'm very interested to see how this continues to move forward. And overall, I'm still relying on this being bullish, both from the project perspective side as well as the technical analysis. We're still holding consecutively days over the 21 EMA ever since looks like we broke out above basically since December 24th. We had moments where we pulled down below, but it still closed technically above. And right now it's pretty high in that position. We might see some potential pullback into this position lower here. Let's go ahead and get ourselves our Fibonacci retracement and see how this kind of plays out within this major zone. Looking just kind of within this consolidated space here. We essentially have tapped in from that the upper quadrant. Let me get rid of this so you guys can see that a little bit better. Right here from the top position down to the 0.786, it's nearly filled in that space but came back up already. And if it decides that it wants to go down to the next quadrant, I'd be looking at $12, 12.1258, and then a worst case scenario, well, not worst case scenario, but a further continuation down to the halfway back down region is at $11.33. And then the 21 EMA is actually resting right on that line for the 0.236. Very interesting. And that is at $9.52. So there's some different key metrics for you guys to kind of keep your eyes open, looking at where it could potentially move after this. There's nothing of reference in its history from looking at this chart to compare it to. So the only other thing we got is like $50. So essentially, I'd be looking at it like this is its all-time high. That's the easiest way I would kind of relate it. Unless this chart is wrong for some reason, feel free to correct me in the comments down below. But we got a lot of room for potential movement to occur. The project is very promising, and I'm curious to see how this continues to move on. Let me know what you guys think. If there's anything that I missed for news, anything that's important, tell us in the comments down below. You guys are absolutely amazing. I appreciate all of you being here. Thank you guys so much. Don't forget to hit subscribe, hit the thumbs up, like button. Let's try to get to 100 likes on this video. Also click the bell icon so you can actually get alerted of videos when they come out. And I will see you guys in the next episode.